All right, I've just shared my screen, so you'll see something pop up on your end. Just click View Screen and let me know when you can see my screen.
I see it. I can see it.
Okay, perfect.
All right, we're good.
Okay, great. So this is the main rentals page. I'm just going to briefly cover the account settings. This is what Steven and I have gone over, and Steve is going to talk to you guys afterwards. I just want everyone to have an understanding of what these settings are because they'll get applied to your rentals every time a new rental is imported.
It's a little muffled. A little bit better sound.
All right, so the restriction section here, these are the pre-qualifying questions that we're asking leads before they schedule a viewing to determine if they're qualified enough to schedule a viewing. So the defaults here are what gets applied to each rental when they get imported. And again, Steve is going to be kind of going through this and configuring this. The important thing for you guys to know right now is that every rental that gets imported will get the default settings that are seen here, or however these end up being adjusted. And then each rental, you will have the ability to change these per each rental. So for example, pet policy is one that often changes rental by rental. So you'll have the ability to change that, after the rental gets imported.
Ann, you mind if I stop you a quick second?
Sure.
Your sound's a little bit muffled, so I'm going to have to potentially at times just stop you and give a quick narrative or overview, because for some reason it's just a little muffled, so some people are having a hard time. So basically, just afterwards, these are settings that we're going to go through, and I'm going to work with you guys individually, whoever's here. We're going to work with you guys to get the settings correct. Okay? But there's all sorts of customizables. All right, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. And then the viewing section here, very similarly, these are default settings that get applied to the rentals. So for your self-access viewings, we have code box and combo lockbox enabled. That will just allow you to make those selections on the rental. Right now, the times that leads will be available to book appointments for those self-access viewings is 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And the leads will submit a request anytime they want to view the rental. We will also require government ID to be uploaded. So before a lead will be able to schedule an appointment for the self-access viewing, we're going to require that government ID.
Come closer. What? I don't think it's going to be any better. Yeah, but if you're closer, you can understand everything that she's saying. It is easier. Okay.
All right, and then for your in-person showings, we have a few different settings here. So I'll just kind of briefly go over these. The max showings per time, this is how many people or groups of people are able to schedule at one given time. So right now it's set to 4, so we'll allow up to 4 people to book an appointment at the same time. The showing duration is 30 minutes, so every appointment that gets scheduled will be for 30 minutes. We have a 4-hour scheduling notice, so you guys will have basically a 4 hours heads up before anybody can schedule a viewing. The buffer before the trip to the rental, this is to accommodate drive time. So 40 minutes will be added to the beginning of the showing to make sure you guys have enough time to get there. And then this last setting in the top section here is for limiting showings. We're not going to be limiting the showings, which means that a lead will be able to request or schedule a viewing at different times during the day. These other options here would limit how many times you go out to the rental. So if you only wanted to have one showing at the rental, that's that middle option. And then the limiting trips would allow us to just book back-to-back appointments, for the first one that's scheduled. The bottom section here is for unconfirmed showings. So every appointment that gets scheduled, we will ask the lead to confirm their appointment. We'll send the lead a text and an email 24 hours ahead of time asking them to confirm. If the lead does not confirm their showing 2 hours ahead of time, we'll notify the property manager, that's whoever's assigned to the rental in Tenant Turner, letting them know. And basically the point of this is to basically let you know that the lead is at risk for not showing up for their showing. So it may be a good idea to reach out to them if they haven't confirmed to see if they'll still be going.
Okay, just so you guys know, she's going over the little settings right now. Kind of it's the default setting for the company. We'll review that, change that. That's why I said we'll get some feedback afterwards. We'll establish just the default setting, but then each individual can set up their own setting, their own kind of default buffer, and you've got the ability to set up some settings per property. Is that accurate, Ann?
Yep, you got it.
And when they say notify the property manager, in our world, that's the lead. That's also the company.
That's correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to actually just move over to the rental section. Those were the settings that I wanted to review with you guys so you just have an understanding of where these default settings are coming from. But now we can hop over to the rentals page. So this is the main page that you'll see when you log in. We are importing automatically every 4 hours from Appfolio. What I did now is just click the import button in the upper right hand corner because I wanted to let you know that you guys can also manually import at any time. So if you've posted a new property in Appfolio, one that's just come on market and you're not seeing it in Tenant Turner yet, just run a manual import here and we'll get that update right away.
And so you guys know this will be done by our support staff. So the support staff will go in when we enter everything in that folio, just like now you guys are not entering the properties in that folio. We'll enter them in that folio, and we will assign them in Tenant Turner. We'll make sure they're imported and assign them in Tenant Turner to the correct lead. Okay, so that when you log in, basically you'll see all your listings. And all you'll have to do is, if you have any sort of customization to do for that specific listing, you can do it there. Okay, go ahead.
Perfect. And one note for you, Steve, I know you're going to be reviewing the account settings. If you make changes to the account settings, after you do that, just come here and run a manual import. That will allow us to get the updated settings for all the properties that have not been activated yet.
Okay.
For any properties that already have been activated, we don't go back and override those settings. That's intentional because you may be customizing those settings for each individual rental. So we wouldn't want to override any changes that you've already made.
Okay.
So as you can see here, Steve and I have gone through one rental together. I'll show you what that looks like. But every new property that comes on market is going to come over to Tenant Turner and be listed as ready to activate, just as you see here. So just as Steve mentioned, the person will come in here and activate that rental, assign it to the appropriate leasing agent, and then make any adjustments on the settings. So we'll walk through that together now. So I'm going to just pick this rental here on the right, 3921 12th Avenue South. So, okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and just click activate. And at the very top, this is where the appropriate leasing agent will be assigned. And did you say this was Roberto's?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We'll go ahead and assign it to him. And then here is where the restrictions can be updated just for this one rental. So there's no need for us to kind of go through these again since we just talked about them, but just know that, here we're just in this one rental and any changes we make will just be for this one rental.
And so they know this is basically going to appear when a lead comes in. It's going to be done two ways. These are pre-qualifying questions that are either done online or they're done through the call center. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So every lead that comes in is going to be pre-qualified based on the criteria you tested. They default to standard. They default to standard unless you come here at the property and change it. Okay? That property. Correct. For example. It'll only apply to this property. Yes. Okay. We're good.
All right, perfect. So then coming down here to the viewing section, one new thing you see here is the wait list. This is a feature that can be used anytime you're not ready for viewings. So basically we'll still get leads in. We'll pre-qualify those leads, but we won't let them schedule a viewing yet. So this can be useful, maybe you're having a property that's just coming on market, it's getting cleaned, maybe at some point in the process there's work being done, anything like that. Anytime where you don't want us to schedule viewings, you would keep the wait list on. You can include a message to prospective tenants. So this will just give them some sort of expectation on what's going on, maybe when you expect viewings to begin. And then anytime you turn off the wait list, we'll notify all the leads that have come in that viewings are now available.
Okay, you guys got that? Go ahead.
Perfect. And then, so for any rentals that you're using self-access on, you would turn that on to enable, indicate if you're going to be using a code box or a combo lockbox. Once you receive your code boxes, the serial numbers will appear in this drop down and you'll just choose the one that you'd like to assign to that rental.
And so you guys know the self-showing lockbox function, just know that it exists. And when and if we're ready to use it, it will be done on a case-by-case basis. And we'll go through it in depth. Where we have 6 code boxes now. We're going to end up getting more, but it'll just allow somebody a self-showing. So it'll be good for a property that's maybe in an outlying area, or to supplement some of the coverages, the showing times, expand the amount of showing. So if you're not typically showing on a Sunday, you might want to put this available. Okay?
Exactly. Cool. So I'll turn that off for now. Leave on in-person showings. Again, I'm not going to go into these settings. We already talked about these, but know that you can adjust these just for this one rental again.
Okay.
One new option you see here is to send viewing notices to current occupants. So if you'd like to add the occupant's email and or phone number, you can add as many occupants that you'd like. We'll notify them via email and or text of all upcoming showings.
So on an occupied property, we could narrow down the time that it's available and still allow some bookings that way?
Exactly. Yep, you got it. I'll show you these optional showing details. These are not typically very common, but they certainly can come in handy at times. The first is a showing address override. This is if you would like to meet the lead at any location other than the rental's address. So if for some reason you wanted to meet them at the office or just anywhere else, you could add that address here. The showing instructions, again, may come in handy at times. This is if you'd like to let the lead know about anything ahead of the showing. So this would be things like special instructions on parking, gate code, anything like that. We do have the ability to require government ID for your in-person showings. Again, this is not very common just because you are going to be meeting the person in person, but the option is here.
Okay.
All right, the availability section here is where you'll be able to set your schedule. So this rental is assigned to Roberto. So we see his name here under the general availability. General availability is the first way we can set a schedule. Basically what this does is when we add some general availability, which we will go ahead and do for Roberto, it'll be attached to his user profile and he'll be able to reuse it across multiple rentals. So the big benefit here is that you're setting your schedule up one time, and then whenever your new properties are activated, you just turn it on and use that same schedule.
Okay, hang tight a second. I'm going to see if I can explain this to these guys, make sure they got it.
Okay.
You knew we set up we're setting up our general default setting, right? But you're able to go in and set up your own general default setting. Okay, what time are you typically available? And then on top of that, you can set specific availability for that property. So each one kind of overrides the next. Right? If you don't do anything, it's going to go to general. If you got something, if you put something in there on your own availability, then it's going to default to that. Something specific to a property, it'll go to that. Okay. Yep. And tell me if I'm giving them the wrong information. So.
Yep, that sure. No, you're right on. All right. So I'll just show you this process again using Roberto as the example here. So if I click Add Availability, again, this is taking me out to Roberto's user profile. So you can also get here through the user section. At the very top of the page on this availability tab is the general availability. So you'll basically set up different time blocks. This is meant to give you ultimate flexibility on when you want your schedule to be set per day. So you add a new time block for each day of the week that you'd like to do showings, and then you set your times. So, if you wanted 9 a.m. to, let's say, 5 p.m., you could do that. And again, just adding it for each time block, each day of the week. Again, the benefit here is really that you're setting your schedule up one time. You can obviously make adjustments to it whenever you'd like, but really once you set it up, you're good to go.
Can I ask a quick question? I need to
Sure.
hold up, but with the availability, does this reflect all the properties or just per property?
Yeah, great question. So the general availability is going to be able to be used for all properties. And I'll show you in just a minute where you can set it up if or when you need to set up your availability just for one property.
And the viewing approval, you can go through that real quick?
Absolutely. So each time block, you can set a different viewing approval. The first option here is take requests. What that means is any lead that's qualified will submit a request. You'll receive an email of that request with a link that'll take you directly to the lead's information page to see the times that they've requested. You can approve one of their times or reschedule if that doesn't work for you. The other option is to set appointments. That will allow us to automatically schedule the appointments based on your availability.
Okay, and just so you guys know, what we sort of discussed is that you might experiment a little bit with the take request part, but hope is that the best practices are to get it to the point where it can set appointments automatically. And that'll just take a little bit of time and get used to it. But that's normally everybody tries to gravitate to going with having this thing automatically set the appointments. So what you're focused on is controlling your schedule, and you still will have the access and ability to go back and reschedule somebody or change something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
One other thing that I'd like to point out on this page, and again, we're on the user profile page, is this check for conflicts. If we're automatically scheduling appointments, this becomes very, very important for you to connect either an Office 365 or Google Calendar. This will allow us to check for conflicts to see when you're not available according to your calendar. So if you have a meeting like this one, other responsibilities, within, your office, your job, we'll see those conflicts. We won't book any appointments during those times that you're not available according to your calendar.
Okay, so you guys know, I mean, if you opt to use Google Calendar will sync with your iPhone calendar. It'll sync with most calendars that you end up using. So if you've got other appointments or something comes up, that's where you can blow it into there, and then automatically you won't have to go back in and say, hey, wait a second, I got to go back and readjust my settings for this day. If you've got something going on, just pop it onto your Google Calendar, and it'll now stop. It won't allow any more scheduled appointments for that time period. It's automatic. Once you set it up and sync it to your Google Calendars, it will always do it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yep. So that allows you to just kind of focus on running your own calendar and keeping your calendar. And as long as you do that, it's not going to schedule something that doesn't. And it'll take into account the buffer, the distance, the travel time, and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly. And just to quickly mention under here the blackout dates, if you're really good at keeping your calendar updated, you might not need to use the blackout dates, but these are intended for holidays, vacations, any date ranges where you're going to be unavailable.
So if somebody's going on a cruise or something, they can black it out.
Exactly. All right, so I'm going to come back here to the rental. So we went over the general availability. Now let's talk about this rental specific availability. So this is how you set up availability only for this one rental. And if you wanted to do that, typically, you would turn off your general and just use your rental specific availability. This is helpful in cases where a lot of times if you're going to need just a more limited availability for this rental, maybe it's an occupied unit, you've worked out with the tenants that you're going to show it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you can set up those times. Again, you can set it up for yourself, in this case, Roberto, and pick your times. The other thing to point out here, if you uncheck this repeats weekly box, you can select a specific date. So maybe you typically don't do showings on Saturdays, but you wanted to make an exception for this one rental for this Saturday. You could set it up that way, and just again pick your times that you're going to be available to show it.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to just cancel out. I'm not actually going to save this rental, but I'm going to go back into the one that Steve and I looked at earlier this week, because we already have one active that we can look at. So 1006 Hallwood Loop. I'm just going to go back in. We just went through the settings for the other. You know, whenever you save those rental settings, the rental will be activated. A couple other things to point out here. The availability tab, this is going to show you what times you're offering up to leads. So once you guys really get going, this can be really useful to make sure that you're offering up enough times for leads. We show, the gray boxes are unavailable, the green is available. We'll show, once you have showings scheduled, you'll see more and more times disappear due to showings, due to buffer time. Once you connect your calendar, we'll see that conflicts. You'll be able to see that here to see, what times become unavailable due to your calendar conflicts and that sort of thing. The owner report. The owner report can be set up to send automatically. You can send it to any email addresses that you add here. This will be sent out automatically once a week, Fridays at 10 a.m. You can optionally include feedback. This is feedback that we're collecting from the lead after they complete a viewing. We'll ask them for feedback, and then we'll also send them a link to your application. Scrolling down here, I'll show you what all is included on the owner report. Some key metrics about the leads and viewings for the last 7 days since the report is sent once a week, and then the total number since it's been on market, and that feedback if you choose to include it. The feedback will be listed here. You guys will be notified when leads leave feedback as well, so you can be sure to review that feedback. You'll also have the ability to hide certain pieces of feedback from the owner report if there's something that's not particularly useful for your owners to see.
Okay, just so you guys know, they, after a showing, they end up pushing out an email to the tenant to try and get feedback. Whatever feedback they include, it kind of defaults to be included in on that report. However, you can jump into that, look at that feedback, and choose to suppress it, not offer it. Or you can choose an option not to include any feedback at all. But the idea behind this thing, right now, we've got it set up every Friday at 10 o'clock. We're going to do it kind of company-wide and just discuss it. And then everybody company-wide will know, hey, Fridays at 10 o'clock, this report automatically goes out. And again, we can schedule it we can set it to go to the owner and copy the leasing agent as well.
Absolutely.
And copy the property manager too if we wanted to. So can we put in multiple email addresses, or are we limited to just?
You can put multiple. Yep, they're just separated by a comma.
Got it?
Yep.
So in our case, if we wanted to inform Ralph, he listed the property, and Vermont, since he's renting it out, we can get those updates on that. All right? That's good.
Perfect. Moving on to the leads tab. The leads tab is where all of your leads are going to show up. So once you guys go live, your listings are going to be updated with your Tenant Turner phone number and email address. That way, when leads inquire, they find your listings online, they'll come here into Tenant Turner first. We'll follow up with those leads several times, encouraging them to get pre-qualified and scheduled. So no matter, what point of the process the lead is in, you'll be able to see that here. So first, the lead's just going to come in with their contact information. They won't have a score just yet. They're what we refer to as unscored leads. Once they do fill out those pre-qualification questions, they'll receive a score of a 0 to 10. Any lead that gets a score of a 6 to a 10 is going to be able to request or schedule a viewing with you. And the things that go into the score are those restrictions that you set up. So, for example, if the property does not allow for pets, we're going to give the lead a score of a 0 if they have a pet and not let them schedule. So only those qualified leads based on the criteria that you set up are going to be able to schedule a viewing. We're also going to be asking a few other things that factor into this score as well, including move-in date, lease term, and income. So it's kind of a sliding scale, but really the important thing to know is that, the qualified leads with a score of a 6 to a 10 will be able to request or schedule a viewing with you.
And for all the leads, we'll still have availability and visibility on them. It's not going to go through the automated process on every one to schedule them.
Exactly.
So if it turned out you wanted to go back in there and look at the ones that didn't score at least a 6 on that score, you could still go back in, call them up, and schedule a show.
Exactly.
Bulk email and do something. Communicate with them somewhere. Okay.
All right. One other thing I'd like to point out on this page, since you guys are using the call center, you probably won't have any leads coming in contact with you directly because we'll be handling those inquiries, and then those leads who choose to speak with somebody will be talking to the call center. But just in case any leads come in contact with you guys directly, you can manually add them into the system. All you have to do is collect their contact information, so their first and last name, email address, and or phone number. Indicate if they're a tenant or an agent lead. Typically, they're going to be a tenant lead. And then you can invite them to pre-qualify and schedule. So you'll get everybody going through the same process. Everyone will be in one place. You'll benefit from having, the numbers on your owner report for everybody that you add in here. So if anybody gets in contact with you guys, it's definitely a good idea to add them to the system.
Okay, so you guys basically understand that? I mean, this means that all the calls coming in aren't going to go to your cell phones anymore or anything like that. They're all going to get kind of scheduled automatically or go into the system. They're going to talk to other people. We have expanded hours for people answering their phones. You just don't have to worry about that process. But if it turns out you do talk to someone, you must enter that lead into the system because you're giving owners a report that needs to be complete. Enter it in real fast. Okay?
Yep, exactly. All right. Just coming back here to the main rentals page. So again, once your rentals are active, they'll be, they no longer have the activate tab. The little green dot indicates that it is active. One other thing to know is that when the property comes off market, we'll get that update from Appfolio. Instead of having a label as ready to activate, it'll be ready to deactivate. And basically, as soon as it's deactivated in Tenant Turner, we'll notify all the leads that have come in that the property is off market. We'll redirect them to your other available listings, and we will cancel all, viewings that are scheduled.
Okay, you guys understand that? So once something no longer available, you've got the option to basically let it cancel out all your showings and deactivate all the leads that came in. But you also could say, send them a message that says, hey, this one got rented, but I've got these two other ones that fit this criteria that you might be interested in, and send that out to them, and they'll automatically put that out to those leads on those.
This
Appfolio will update here. Okay. So basically, you guys will be doing the same process that currently that you've updated actually for us in Appfolio, and then it will be activated and stuff like that. But you could go into Appfolio yourself and inactivate it, and that would trigger this thing getting updated. Bearing in mind, this updates every 4 hours unless we do it. Okay, we're good.
Okay, perfect. And I have just a couple other things to point out to you, and then we should have about 5 minutes for any questions that you guys have too. So from the main menu, obviously the rentals page, that's where we spent most of our time. That's where you'll spend most of your time. The viewings page, this is where all of the viewings will show up across all rentals. So you'll be able to see today, the next 7 days, the last 7 days. You can search by the lead's name, phone number, any information here. You'll be able to filter down just to see what viewings are assigned to you. We'll also be sending the appointments to your calendar automatically, but just know, if you want to see those in Tenant Turner in one place, you can come here to the viewings page.
You say you're setting it to the calendar. Is that through the syncing with Google Calendars?
So it is. That's part of it. We will automatically send it to the calendar associated with the email address we have attached to the user. But if and when you sync your calendar, we'll also automatically put it there too, if it's a different calendar.
Okay.
Yep. The access section, you guys can just pretty much ignore that for now. If and when you start to do self-access showings, this is where your code boxes will show up, those electronic lock boxes. Even when they do show up here, you won't have to come here very often because you'll be assigning them on the specific rental. This is just where your code boxes will live, and you'll be able to see in one place which rentals are assigned to each code box. Reports, I'm not going to go into these in any sort of detail, but there are a lot of different reports that are available to you. A couple ones just to highlight: the rental activity report. This is basically going to compile the data that's included on the owner report across all rentals. So, if you wanted to, you'll be able to filter down based on dates, based on, the rentals that are assigned to you. If you wanted to just come in one place to see the activity for your rentals, you'll be able to do that. We have a couple different lead reports which give different information. The source report is the lead's contact information, where they're coming from. The activity report includes the viewings that have been scheduled, feedback that leads have left, that sort of thing. And just so you know, even when your rentals go off market, all of this information is going to still be available to you in these reports.
Okay.
Users is pretty straightforward. That's where you will go back and go into your own user settings to connect your calendar. The account settings we've already talked about, so we don't really need to go into any sort of additional detail there. The last thing for me to point out, and then see if you guys have any other questions, the help section. This takes you out to Tenant Turner's Help Center, where we have a lot of different information available to you. So you can always come here at any time, search for answers for questions you may have. The other important thing to know is that the bottom right-hand side of this screen, as well as from within Tenant Turner, you have a little chat box. This is the fastest way to get in touch with our support team. So you can start a new conversation, ask us any questions, give us any feedback. You see, we typically reply in under 20 minutes, so we're super responsive. So definitely don't hesitate as you guys have questions as you get started.
Okay.
So that's everything that I have for you. We have a few minutes left. Do you guys have questions for me?
Joe and Mike.
Yep.
Yep.
I do. When it comes to those leads, when you're saying enter the leads that don't come in through this automatically, uh, Steve, I guess this might be for you a little bit, but Craigslist, MLS, Trulia, all those types of things that we get all the leads from, those are the leads that we'll have to manually input to this.
No, Craigslist is potentially some of those, but even then, I'm going to start to enter. I'm going to set up a Craigslist account with this email, and I got to see how it goes on Craigslist. Craigslist may be the only one, but MLS, I'm going to reconfigure the MLS so it goes through this database, and hopefully we'll be able to force the MLS to do that.
So those current leads I'm getting through email right now, those won't come through emailing where they'll all be generated through this platform.
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to do our best to force as much as we can through here, including signs. They will all have one number, one phone number that basically when they call that number, it gives them sort of the option to schedule the showings or talk to a live person. All right, so we've already ordered decals for the current signs. We push those out, but basically the communications are going to come through this system going forward. We will not be contacting you. We're just going to do our best to try and adjust them. Maybe if we can, make sorts of if we can, the final end to here. Joe?
I'm good right now. I didn't understand quite how to send them other listings when one has been rented, but I can go through it.
Yeah, we'll be able to cover that without a problem. And basically, one of the things we'll do is when you have our listing that does go inactive, we'll deal with it live. Okay. I've been through it, so we'll be able to help you.
Okay.
It's really easy. What about you guys? Good?
I have another question if I can ask another one.
Go ahead, Mike.
When it comes to scheduling appointments, these guys are going to set my times for me, or do the leads come in like they have been, and I can call and set my time? Is there an ability to do that versus just taking the appointments as they're being given to me?
Well, you got two things. You're determining your schedule, your availability. So just consider it a receptionist that is answering your phone and going to schedule only pre-qualified leads based on what you told them your availability is. So they're going to do all the work for you. You are determining when you're available to do the showings. And on that, you will have two options. And that is that you're going to either allow the receptionist, allow the receptionist to automatically set the appointments based on the information you provided, or you will say, you know what, before you set that appointment, I want you to send me a notification of it, and I have to confirm it.
Like a request, like that tenant has a request for a 10 o'clock showing, and then I can call them and say, yeah, I can confirm that.
You can just click it, confirm it, or you can call and talk to them if you want, or anything like that.
Okay.
You can call the tenant directly if you want it. You'll have the tenant's contact information. So you can contact the tenant directly if you want to, or you could just really just respond to the request and just confirm the appointment.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that cover it so far?
I just have one more question. If you set an appointment yourself, so do you go into tenant earner and document that showing so it gets put on the report?
It automatically allowed you when you were entering a lead to it gave you like 3 different options. One of which was to schedule a showing automatically. Okay, so you can enter the showing in right there. Another one would be to send this person a pre-qualification and then schedule. So, for example, what we would do potentially right now with that is if we can't get it importing in properly, we might take that Craigslist ad, enter it in as a lead, and then tell the system to automatically try to get a hold of them and pre-qualify them and then allow them to schedule the show.
But in the instance that Mike asked, that if he wants to confirm the appointment, so he gets a notification and then he contacts the person to finalize the time, that lead's already in the system.
Yeah, the lead's in the system, but he doesn't have to contact the tenant to finalize the time. He can, if the time is okay for him, he can just simply click the button to confirm it.
And if it's not, then you give an alternate time.
Yes, you've got options, or you can just reach out to the tenant right directly.
Okay, but when you reach out to them directly, how does the appointment get put into the system?
You're looking at that lead, so you can make that adjustment.
You do it yourself.
Am I saying this correctly, Ann?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. So you could do it that way if you chose to do it. But you'll see, so far, everybody that I end up talking to, they start to get it figured out, work through as they get more familiar with it, and they start to just utilize the automation.
And then just in the help center, is there more detailed information on where you choose once a day or all day? I know there's an option to set up you're available to go to that property once a day or more than or all day. Is there a place where I can get more information on that? I can understand that.
For that setting, yeah, there is. I think it's in the account settings. Yeah, so we have the account settings specifically about viewings on that. Yeah, so it is. There's
So everything you went through, I can go to the help center and kind of go through.
absolutely. Yeah, if you just search for, the specific kind of keywords and the article should pop up. And if you have other questions, definitely just chat with us and let us know.
And Joe, I'm also now pretty familiar with it, so I can help as well. So, you'll have a lot of resources to be able to get this thing worked through.
Sounds good.
All right, Ian, I think we used up your time.
Yep. I have to jump off here now. I will send you this recording, Steve. Let me know if you have questions. Specifically, let me know if you have questions about the MLS and Craigslist. We do have articles in the Help Center about those specifically, but especially the MLS can be a little tricky on updating that. So just let me know when you get there if you have questions on that.
That's great.
All right.
We're going to be set to go live. I'm going to change the widget out and then go back on our website and then go back through and change out all the the vacancy contact information for everybody, hopefully by the end of the day today.
Okay, perfect.
The way to make certain that I got people comfortable and set up a little bit initially, and then we'll end up doing it.
Sure. Okay, that sounds great.
All right?
All right.
Thanks, Ann.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Mike and Joe, you can reach out to me directly on it. All right, I'll be in here